a lot of women are scared to, I don't know, speak up about this because they want to trust in whoever their doctor is or whatever. And that's great. But they end up being like resentful or regretful of whatever it was. Like, oh, if I had done this and I wouldn't have had a C-section, I would have had the birth that I wanted. I don't know. I hear this a lot. And that's
important.
It's a big conversation.
I don't got it all planned out, but you know, I just watch it all pan out, 'cause I know that you know, covered in this life until forever.
Thank you for coming. Tori Praver is in the building.
Birnbaum.
Well,
Birnbaum now.
This is official.
Well, round 2.
This is official. This
is marriage number 2. So I said, you know what? I want to really throw in the towel here and go for it. So yeah.
Tori Birnbaum. Is it Tori Praver Birnbaum or just Tori Birnbaum? You just went straight in.
I just went for it. Yeah. The first time around, I hyphenated, and this time I said, this is it.
No,
number 3, I might just get rid of the last name altogether.
Once Mark is out of the picture.
Yeah.
Is Praver the married name or maiden name?
It's my maiden name.
Okay.
Yes.
So you just, nice. Look, this is interesting. First of all, let me get this in though. Tori, welcome Tori Birnbaum to the Cool Mom Code podcast.
Thank you.
I am so happy to have you here.
I'm excited.
I really am happy to have this conversation.
I know we've been talking about this for a long time.
We've been talking about this for a long time. And I remember at dinner having a very in-depth conversation with you. And there's so much about you that I had no idea. I think almost the topic of this conversation is going to be, you cannot judge a book by its cover. You are that person for me.
Okay.
You cannot judge a book by its cover.
What shocked you the most?
You know what it is? I think your story is, from the outside looking in, people who don't really know you, your story is this gorgeous girl who lived in Maui, Hawaii, who was discovered at 15, frolicking whatever the beaches of Hawaii, and you became an instant supermodel, and you've traveled the world, and you started your own businesses, and you have 3 beautiful, healthy children. That is what the world, I think, sees when they look at your story. But there are so many layers and chapters and bookmarks in between that I think, people don't realize, and obviously people don't know. Yeah. And that's what intrigues me the most about you, because you have lived life. You truly have. And you've had ups and downs and bruises, and, you've come out of things. And I think, you have so much to say. And this is what I was telling you at dinner, I think, too. Yeah. I was like, Tori, you have so much to say. You truly do. And you have such a large voice that's what I was excited for people to hear.
Yeah. It's funny. This is really, I think, the second podcast I've ever done. And the first one wasn't too long ago. And it was actually really fun. I enjoyed sharing and telling my story, and I don't know, it was an exciting thing for me. And then hearing it back and the feedback I got, it was I felt kind of inspired. I want to do this more. Yeah. So when you asked me, I was like, yes, I'll be there. I am happy to do it.
Because I think also people don't realize that you're kind of an introvert. You're not a full-on extrovert until people get to know you. Would you characterize yourself that way?
I never did growing up. And I realized the older I get, I'm I think I'm not a recluse. I feel that's not the word.
You don't hide.
But yes, I think the right word is I really protect myself and my energy, and I really pick and choose who I share it with. And I think to me it seems genuine and not the opposite of kind, but sometimes it does come off that way. And I'm this is just, I don't know, I need to warm up more and be able to share more. I think I told you this.
Yes, we talked about this, and it's interesting because Mark, your husband, he is
the
full
opposite.
On extrovert.
Yes.
Mark is when we went out to dinner with me, Mark, Issa, and yourself, right? It was we kind of compared how we are in the relationships. Right. And I feel you and Issa were very similar.
We were similar.
And me and Mark were very very similar.
But he thrives on that.
He thrives on it.
And that is why he is where he's at today.
Yeah.
Like, this is his gift, and he used it to his full potential. So,
yes.
I mean, I don't know. I think I just I like protect my little energy shell.
But I love that you preface it like that, because I think people do say introvert, extrovert, and people think if they're an introvert, they think automatically, I don't really like to talk to people. I don't like to socialize. Yes. You're not a recluse by any means, because I see you out, girl. I see you you're entertaining. You like to have fun. You like to enjoy life and people, for that matter.
Yes.
But I like that you phrased it not so much introvert, but protect your energy, because I think that's important, and I think that's something that not everyone does.
Yes. Yeah. And I was always told, in my younger years of modeling, that I always needed to be warmer and more engaging, and it all made sense to me, but it was a struggle.
Yeah.
Like, if I didn't genuinely or organically connect with somebody, it was hard for me to do that.
But that's hard too. I mean, especially in the modeling industry.
It is hard, but it's so necessary. And I think in general, that's sort of, something that you need to do to get far in life. You just do. You have to kind of get over that hump of exactly what you're feeling in that moment, in that day. If you have a bad day, too bad. You got to put a smile on your face.
Yeah.
I just had a hard time with that.
Do you feel like that's one of the lessons you kind of took away from modeling, though?
Actually, now that you ask me, yeah, I think I look back, not that I regret anything, but I'm like, if I knew what I knew now back then as, an 18, 19-year-old girl, maybe I would be in a different place. I don't know, but I was young, and, I hadn't lived life yet. And these are the things that you learn along the way.
I mean, because how old were you when you started modeling?
So I was 16. Was I 16? Yeah, 16, the first campaign I ever did. But I was still in high school. Right. And I was still living on Maui, and I was, I was a young girl, and I really wasn't ready to fully go all in. And then I moved to New York when I was 18 years old.
Oh, so you moved to New York as a woman. I mean, at 18.
Yes, a child woman.
As a child woman, But there's so many models who moved to New York at 15.
I went when I was 14, 15, and I really hated it. I just wanted to go back to school and be a normal kid. I wanted to go to prom, and I wanted to play soccer, and I just wanted to be a kid.
But how is that with agents probably pressuring you and pressuring your parents too to say, she needs to be in New York. She needs to be in front of these clients.
There was a lot of pressure. I think people were even at the time, come move here, come live in New York. And it just, luckily my mom was like, you know what, if that's not what you want to do, let's do what you want to do. You're only a kid once.
I love
that. I think that growing up in Hawaii and being from such a small town, it really kept me humble. And even though I was traveling the world and, living this crazy life, I would go back home to this little island, and I had this, group of friends, and it was my home. It was this very humbling feeling.
You were normal.
And I was really,
yeah.
No, I guess normal is the word. Yeah.
Yeah. It felt like that was good. Your comfort. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I love that though. I love this idea that, well, you know what it is? I think starting modeling at such a young age, you are entered into a very adult world.
Yes.
Very early on.
Yes.
And you are forced to, like you said, learn all these things about people and how different people act and how the world works and
be independent. And I had to travel to foreign countries alone where no one spoke a word of English. And be there for days by myself. I mean, when I say alone. You have to figure out, this is what people don't understand. People think that it's kind of like acting, right?
Yeah. Whereas SAG has unions. So when you fly into another country for SAG, or when you even go to another city, there has to be someone there to pick you up.
Right.
You go to a hotel that was already decided for you. You meet with your, PA or whatever, and then you go to set. With modeling, it is not like that. No. They do not realize that these girls and guys, they have to, when they get to the city, you have to figure out how you're getting to that hotel.
Yeah.
There's no car service waiting for you, or handler or PA.
Right.
It's it's mostly on your own.
Yeah. When I was younger, there was always somebody there to greet you and take you, but that person maybe doesn't even speak English. So you're I have nowhere, I don't know if I'm in the right car, where I'm going, what happens when you get there. And then, it's hard. I think everyone would always be like, oh, wow, you're so lucky you get to go to wherever it is, Thailand, Italy, like some exotic place. And it sounds amazing. And it was. But at the same time, you're there for a week by yourself. You know nobody. You're supposed to be this independent, working girl at such a young age. Yeah. It really it makes you grow up fast.
And be professional.
Yep.
Right? Know how to be professional, not have your emotions involved, all that. Be on set for 16-hour days.
And hours. Yes. Yeah.
Be in swimsuits in very cold weather.
Don't complain about a thing.
Don't complain. Yeah. I mean, is this an industry that you would ever allow your daughter to be in?
I have actually, so she just recently is super into this whole thing of Mom, why don't you model anymore? And how come she's into it? I don't know why.
Does she see all of your photographs and
she
your
does.
Pictures?
Yeah. And when she was really little, I was still doing the swimwear line. So I had her come, she'd watch and be super into the fashion shows and that kind of stuff. But I've thought about that. I was like, gosh, if she wanted to do this, would I let her? And I really don't know. I think it's changed so much because of social media.
Yeah.
The industry is not at all what it was like when I was younger, but I don't know. I feel like I would steer her away from it, honestly.
You would?
Yeah. I think
it's
so.
Interesting. I have this same
what about
thought.
you?
I do. I have this same thought.
I feel like we see eye to eye sometimes.
We do
on
see
that.
eye to eye. You and I
Mommy.
we parent very similar, you and I.
Yeah.
I liked it because I like the idea of it because I do think it gains an independence, right? I think it also allows an opportunity to see the world and see different cultures and how people operate outside of what you are used to. But I would have to see how she was at a certain age.
Yeah.
I don't think I could do it at 16.
Yeah. Well, and also kind of depends on who you could tell the kind of adult she was going to be, or the kind of, I don't know, teenager. It really depends
also
on
I'm the
kid.
Type to go with her.
Right.
I'm the type to be okay, bye guys. The other
so
two
my
kids,
mom went everywhere with me to a certain point. And then I was like, oh, I'm old enough and I'm a big girl. I don't need you anymore. And then a year after of traveling alone, I was like, Mom, please, can you come with me? I don't care. Even if you're just sitting in the hotel room, just know she was there at the end of the day. So I had somebody to go back to and have that comfort. And luckily she was happy to do that. So I had her for, quite a few years go everywhere with me. It was really nice.
I love that. Yeah. See, that I'd be your mom.
So once you turn 18, the client doesn't have to pay for a chaperone. I was going to say a companion, same thing. So I would just I didn't care. I would just pay for her and have her come because it just made my life better.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's people don't understand how hard of a job it really is in that respect. It can be very lonely.
Yeah.
As glamorous as it is and as amazing as it sounds.
I know. It's one of those things where you're I feel bad for me.
Yeah, exactly.
But really, I think it's just, I don't know. I think it has, like you said, from the outside, it has this very glamorous perspective. And then when you speak to some of these people and you hear what they go through, you're like, wow, I wouldn't want to do that. I lived out of a suitcase for years. I was in one place for a few days and off I go again. I would never want to do that right now in my life.
Well, it's also an industry that it preys on the young. It really does. And unless you have a solid foundation or a solid family or, a really great support system or agent or whatever it is, it really can suck you into a life that is just not necessarily the greatest. So I think it just depends on the child. I really do. It depends on the person. It really, really does. So that's my answer. Yeah, we'll see. Let's see. So, fast forward to that though.
Yeah.
What I think is interesting is that you started at a young age, but you were probably one of the OG models who had started their own companies. That was something that I feel like I always looked at you as and was like, damn, Tori really did create and found her own company out of the bat. That was something, was that something you always knew when you started modeling that you wanted to do?
So growing up in Hawaii, I was obsessed with swimwear and always had this kind of distant, faint dream of wanting to start my own swimwear line. I had no idea how fashion or that industry worked at all. It was just something that I was someday when I'm bored and I'm over this, that'll be my next step. And then I did Sports Illustrated And Diane Smith was the editor at the time. And she was like, look, if this is something you really want to do, you should do it. Like, why are you waiting? Like, you have this opportunity in front of you. You have these like great people at your fingertips, stylists and photographers and editors. And like, why not? And I was like, yeah, why not? Like, how come? Like, why would I wait 10, 20 years? So it kind of just like fell into my lap. I really had no idea what I was doing. I actually went with my, gosh, I don't even think I was married at the time. My ex-husband was going to Bali for, I think, a surf competition or something. And it just like, I stumbled upon this like swimwear factory. It kind of just like happened. It was really, yeah, it was really weird. Like, I was like, oh, nice to meet you. She's like, this woman that I met, she's like, I run a swimwear factory. I was like, no shit. Okay, well, can you make some samples for me? And that's just kind of how it all started. And then I learned along the way.
I think there's something to this though. And this is interesting because a lot of times when women sit in the seat, and, you know, obviously they're all mothers, so they experience this at different points of their lives. But it's always this idea in the back of their head of why not? Instead of this idea of, no, I can't.
Right.
Or no, that's not for me. Or, you know, like this negative thought. It's always I wonder what that'll feel like when. Or what if? Or why not? And so for you to have that mentality where someone kind of implanted that into your brain, why not? And then it all unfolds. That's not a coincidence.
No, I don't think it was a coincidence. It's just, I guess I think back now and I was like, what was I thinking? Like, you didn't know what you were doing. You didn't even know. I mean, really, it was kind of a wild risk to take.
It's blind faith, girl. Okay. It is blind faith.
All right. Maybe
like that's what it is. You know, I have this theory. That when we're younger, we don't understand what a consequence really could be, right? Like when we're younger, we don't know that we could really end up homeless. Like homeless is just like a couple of bad decisions away. It's not because someone, it really is. I mean, I really do. It really is. It's a couple of like, and it may not even be a bad decision. It might just be a couple misfortunes. Right. You really have to think about this, right? In perspective. It's a couple of bad turns or a couple of like misfortunes or a couple of like boom bams or whatever. And you can find yourself in crazy situations, right? But it's because we don't think of those consequences when we're younger. We think of, and I had this example of like, it's almost like your kid when they jump off the couch. Look, my son, he's 6, he loves to jump off the couch and like he thinks he's flying because he actually thinks he can fly. Right. But the boy can't fly, he gonna fall, right? Like he doesn't get that though. For us, it's like this idea of when we're younger, we think we can fly. Yes. There are no consequences.
Totally, 100%. And I think
the question is, how do we have that now?
I have girls ask me all the time, so like, will you tell me, like, I want to start a swimwear line, or I want to do this and I want to do that. And I look at them and I'm like, gosh, like I want so badly to like, you know, tell them, are you like, I want to say the things I want to say, but I'm like, no, like, this is it. This is the time where it's okay to fail and it's okay to like fall down and, you know, I don't know, am I allowed to say bad words?
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. She's like,
I'll save that. I won't save that F word for the next time.
But you know what? It's like we had Shilpa from, she's co-founder of Kuyana on here. And Shilpa was saying the exact same thing. She was like, so many women come up to her and they're like, I want to start this too. And I have this company. Tell me everything. And I can't wait and blah, blah. And she's like, listen, I want to explain to them that this is such a long road, that there are sleepless nights, that this becomes like a full-time thing. There will be nights away from your children. There'll be nights away from your husband. You will like work to your bone and you may not get a payoff. You may never stand on this stage. You may never, you know, find whatever it is.
Yeah. I think I look back and I'm like my 20-year-old self, if she were me now, like, would I have done this? And you're right, I probably wouldn't have.
Ooh, here's the question. You know? That's the question.
Because you know how hard it is. Because now there's moments. Listen, I'm not bored. I have 3 kids. I have
you're not bored, honey.
A lot of shit going on in my life. But sometimes I'm like, I miss that creative outlet. I think I told you this. There's moments where I'm like, I have these ideas. I'm like, I could do this. I could do that. I would love to start this business or whatever. And then I'm like, do I really want to do that? Like, do I want to work that hard again?
Because you know,
it sounds like lovely. And I love like having this like lighthearted feeling about, you know, something that you're passionate about, whatever it may be. But then once you kind of like have been through it and worked your ass off, you're like, like, what's the upside? The upside is like saying I succeeded and I'm proud of something, but then is it worth all those sleepless nights and all those stressful days and all the, like you have to kind of like weigh out the pros and the cons when you have a family.
So looking back on it, you would not repeat that same thing. You would not have started the swimwear company?
No. Oh. I'm just saying now, if I would now,
would you do it again? Would you do it all over again?
Had I not done it then, and I was like, am I going to do this? Like, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if I would have. Yeah. So like, yes, my advice is do it. Do it when you're 20. Yeah. Do it when you're 25. Yeah. Do it like, when it's okay to like feel like you have not 1 second of time.
Yeah. But in your life. You were able to do both simultaneously. I mean, you became a mom while you still had the swimwear company, while you were still modeling and traveling.
I had one kid. Yeah. Then I had two. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I have 2 kids. I have this business that I'm running. I was still modeling because that was, that's what paid the bills. Yeah, like my life depended on that income. It wasn't like, I could take that job, not take, like I was working. Yeah. And it was just like a totally different time in my life. And
you working also self-funded the company. Yeah. The swimsuit company.
It was like free marketing. Yeah. Like I could, not that I was wearing it always in every shoot, but if I had the opportunity, I was doing that for myself, which was also a great advantage, right? Yeah. So I don't know how I did it, to be honest. I don't fucking know, because I can't imagine now having a business and all 3 of these kids, but I know like so many moms do it. Like there are so many incredible, pound the pavement moms that are like, but they're fulfilled by that. Yeah. And I really like admire them.
Are you that one friend in the group that loves to treat yourself? It's okay. Honestly, we all do it. I know you. You like to get a pedicure and opt for the extra 10-minute foot massage with green tea infused lotion. Refuse to make coffee at home because that fancy coffee shop is right downstairs. Opt for that extra leg room or even a first class seat on the plane because your vacation starts now. Yep, I know you. Well, if you treat yourself to the top options with everything in life, why settle when finding a doctor? It is your health after all. Enter ZocDoc, the place where you can find and book tens of thousands of top-tier doctors, all with verified patient reviews. So don't settle. Go for the best and find the right doctor for you. With ZocDoc, you've got more options than you know. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare highly rated in-network doctors near you and instantly book appointments with them online. Listen, if I ever need to find the right doctor for me, this is what I'd use. Go to ZocDoc.com/coolmom and download the ZocDoc app for free. Then find and book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/coolmom. ZocDoc.com/coolmom. Just also a really quick note. If you're loving this content, our podcast with all of our amazing guests, we love sharing their stories. It really is such a joy for us. Then you're going to love thecoolmom.co. Make sure to head over there. It is everything that you can think of lifestyle. So we have fashion, food, we have amazing interviews with a lot of other cool moms as well. So check out all of our Cool Mom Co features, shop our merch, do all the things. Check out thecoolmom.co. Do you feel like it really does take a village though? Because I've had this conversation too before with women who juggle parenting and career and marriage and all the things. Do you feel like it really does take a village to raise a child?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, especially where I grew up. Yeah. I grew up on an island and every friend was an auntie. Yeah. It's not what it's like here. And when I moved, I was like, wait a minute. Like, it was so different the way that you raise kids. It was like, oh, you're at a birthday party and you watch your kids only. Like that's just not how it was. Right. Where I grew up. Right. It was like everyone's there for you. You have an eye on everyone's kids. It's very different. So I very much have that kind of like instilled in me. Yeah.
I think it's so fascinating that you grew up
on an island.
In Maui.
I know. And I miss it so much.
It's so fascinating. But I had this conversation with you and I think that was interesting too, because I was like, wait a minute. when you think of Maui, you think of like obviously resort town and like hotels and like that whole thing, that whole lifestyle.
Sure.
Or you think of Blue Crush, which, you know what I mean? Like that, like sort of vibe.
So where I grew up, it was a little bit of both. It was kind of like there was the fancy hotels and like you could kind of have that. And then I think I posted this thing a while ago about this I don't know what it was, like these kids that you knew grew up on an island. If you drove a car down a scary path in the dark to a party out in the middle of nowhere, I was like, wow, this was literally me every single weekend. Like no streets, no paved roads, just like this is what we did for fun. Like we very much were like living, I don't know, like not off the land, but
you were Blue Crush, dude. You were like totally like that lifestyle.
Yes, 100%. That's how I grew up.
Wow.
Yeah, Blue Crush actually. Yeah,
that's kind of
somewhat of a good representation of that. Yeah.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
It was very fun.
I read somewhere also that in Maui or in Hawaii, or you maybe specifically Maui, it is more normalized to have home births than it is like here per se. Is that true?
So I think Hawaii has a higher rate of home births in general. I think LA probably has the least.
Really?
I think when I moved here and I was like, I want to have a baby at home, people were looking at me like I was nuts. Like all of my girlfriends were like, what in the world is she saying? Like, is she crazy? But all of my friends in Hawaii did that. But it was like a normal thing. It wasn't like, wow, okay, well, good luck with that. Like it was very like supported and like, oh, great. Like that's the choice you're going to make.
Yeah. We'll be there.
And I think it's changed. Yeah. I do. I think that there are some people that are doing a very good job at normalizing it and giving it a different light.
Did you have a home birth with your oldest?
No. I had her in the hospital.
Okay.
I wanted to have her at home, but not everybody was on board at the time.
I see.
And then baby number 2, I was able to convince his dad that we were going to have the baby at home, and it was great. It was really beautiful.
Nice.
And perfect.
And you had a whole team and
I did.
But you had him in Hawaii or in LA?
No, I had all the kids here.
Okay.
I had Ryan, my oldest, at Cedars here in LA, and then Phoenix. I was living in Malibu, so I had him at home in Malibu. And yeah, I had a midwife, and I was my own doula at the time.
Really?
I didn't have a doula.
Wait a minute. How were you your own doula?
No, I just didn't hire a doula. Okay. I was like, I think I got this. I had taken a doula training. Long story short, I just decided when I was pregnant that I was going to do this course. And I know. Okay, you want me to go there? Fine.
Yes,
okay,
I do.
Quick story. So Ricky Lake.
Yes.
I'm going to give her another plug.
Okay.
Ricky Lake made a series of documentaries.
I swear
Have you heard?
them. That's the only reason why I had natural births.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So
The Business of Being Born.
Business of Being Born. I watched them when I was pregnant and with my first, and I was like, oh my God, I'm obsessed. I must do this too.
Yes.
Like
I was
this
the
has
exact
to
same
happen.
way. Yes.
I was obsessed with like the home births, with the doula, with the whole like idea. I was like really like into it. And I was like, someday I want to be a doula. Like, we'll see if it happens, but I don't know where I'm going to have the time to do this. I was pregnant with Phoenix, my second. All my friends went to Coachella. I was like 8 months pregnant and giant. I was like, I am not leaving this couch. But I go online. I don't even know how it happens. Like, it was so long ago. I looked up, doula training or something. And it had popped up at this place, Beanie Birth, that they had like one spot left and next week's course. And I was like, okay, I think that's for me. I'm going to sign up. So I walk in and Ricky Lake comes in right behind me, and she's like, I thought that she had already done this because I thought she was a doula. Whatever. It turns out she had never done her training. So she comes in. She's my partner. Wow. I'm like 8 months pregnant. I have like photos of us. It's very cute. And I was like, okay, well, if this wasn't meant to be, then I don't know what is.
Exactly. Is she Auntie Ricky now?
She literally, she wasn't at my birth, but she offered. I don't remember for whatever reason she wasn't. So anyways, I decided like, I think I'm good. I have enough people here. I have like my mom, and I had my husband, I had the midwife, and I think I'm good. So I had him at home, and it was great. Okay. It was beautiful.
So you were successful in being your own doula.
I guess so. Yeah.
I could not have done that.
But people, I mean, like,
even though,
like, you don't really need to hire. I tell people this all the time. Like, if you are comfortable, whoever it may be, your aunt, your sister, your mom, your husband, whoever it is, like, they're your doula. Like, they're your support system.
Right.
You don't need to go and like spend money and pay for that. I think it's like very LA to hire a doula.
You know, listen, I had great benefits from a doula. I had a doula. I had a doula with my first. She didn't show up for my second.
Oh no. Like she was late?
And then there was a different one for my third. I called on for the second. I had this doula. She was the same one for the first one, whatever. We're in labor. Like I'm literally like, this is going. Right. My first labor was 20 hours. My second was 8 hours.
Yep.
And so Issa called her up and was like, we're in labor, whatever. She didn't pick up. He left a message. He texted.
She was on vacation.
He left a message. He called, texted. This happened a couple of times. 8 hours went by. I had to go to the hospital. Right. We had the baby. Yeah. She said that she had started a new meditation practice that she turns off her phone in the mornings. Yeah. And therefore, she missed our calls. Yeah. I was like, what? Yeah. But for the most part, I do think doulas are helpful because for me, I took it as this. The midwives are amazing because they're dealing with all like the technical things, right? Husband is great.
Well, and they're medically trained.
That's the difference.
People get confused,
right.
I think, sometimes.
That's the difference. Husband was great, but he didn't know how to like touch or pressure points or all these things. Yeah,
and that's they're where annoying I felt like, and they really aren't very helpful at the end of the day.
You know what I mean? You're like, but I'm like, okay. But the doula, I felt like knew all those things, and so that's why I feel like the doula. Totally. Also, you know what the doula was great with? She knew how to talk to the medical team because I had mine at UCLA with the midwives at UCLA. Okay, so she was good at talking to the medical team. Whereas I was like
she advocated for you.
She advocated.
Where you could just like say no words and she was your voice. Yeah. No, for sure. I think like there's so many great things that doulas do, for sure.
But there's different.
But I just want to remind people, and I often tell them because they're like, what do I need? Like, do I need to hire this and that? And I'm like, really, if you feel like your support system or your comfort, whoever that person is going to be, you know, by your side and that's enough, then great. Like you don't need to go and do that.
Yeah. But I will say that you definitely need a support system though. I think that the idea of like even during COVID where no one was allowed or just one person was allowed in the room with you. I can't imagine. I could not even imagine.
Did you have a baby during COVID?
No, thank gosh. No, I mean like
not
thank
so
gosh
bad
because honestly I would have
for a lot of these women with the masks and the whole thing.
It was a whole situation.
That must have been very hard.
Very hard.
Yeah.
But my point is that if you can, I do think having an advocate, whether, like you said, an aunt, a mother, someone, blah, blah, in the room, a best friend, whatever it is for you, to have that in the room with you is important.
Yeah. I hear from a lot of women these days that they are unhappy with like how their births go. And I think that's like kind of what I've been trying to get out there and have these conversations about, because a lot of people don't realize that they have choices, you know? You don't have to be in a certain position. You don't have to, you know, have an epidural. You don't have to be induced at a certain point. Well, at a certain point, but like, you know, I think that
to make a choice.
A lot of, like, I think a lot of women are scared to, I don't know, speak up about this because they want to trust in whoever their doctor is or whatever. And that's great. But they end up being like resentful or regretful of whatever it was. Like, oh, if I had done this and I wouldn't have had a C-section, I would have had the birth that I wanted. I don't know. I hear this a lot. And that's
important.
It's a big conversation.
People always dismiss the your birth plan. Right. Like people are always like, why did I even create a birth plan? What was the point? For me, I thought a birth plan was great because I was able to share it with my doula, my midwife, my husband. Yeah. And so when I was incoherent or I felt like I just was like,
where your brain is
they could still speak up in that way, you know what I mean, of what I wanted. So I agree. I think you do have to speak up. I think nowadays, especially in the medical community, if you don't speak up, then you're doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah.
You truly are, especially in the United States, when mortality rates are absolute incredibly high, when Black maternal mortality rates are 3 times the number of white women.
And C-section rates.
Are super high.
Yeah.
That stat from Ricky Lake, The Business of Being Born, I can't even remember exactly, but it was something like, I don't know what the percentage was, but like how high this percentage was of doctors and C-sections happening at Friday at 5 o'clock.
It's really funny.
For me, that was it.
That's what I mean.
I was like,
that's what I mean.
And
so many women are like, okay, fine. Okay, if that's what you think's best. But really, like, they should be like, no, that's not what I want. Like, that's not my plan.
Exactly.
I don't want to do that. I'd rather wait for the baby to come when the baby's ready. Like, I think they're often like swayed in a certain direction just based on who their caregiver is and their provider, which is kind of a bummer. So
that was a very nice way of saying that, Tori. I would just like to say your husband, Mark, would have used a whole different word.
Probably. Oh, by the way, speaking of him, nice so this was like totally out there for him, this whole idea of having a home birth.
Was it really?
So he was like, he knew that I had my second baby at home.
Yeah.
And I think he was like waiting for me to be like, so we're going to have this baby at home. And he says now that like he knew it and was going to like give in no matter what. But I was terrified. I was like, what is he going to say? Like, is he going to be like, no way? Am I just going to end up having to have this baby in the hospital? Fine. I was like, man, I'll just get an epidural at the same time too. But he was like so supportive and so open to it.
He knows you though.
And
Come on.
He really like surprised me. He really shocked me. Yeah. He decided that he wanted to have my OB there. Dr. Crane, was my OB and he actually does home birth. So I was going to pay him just to sit and be there as the support, just in case, essentially for Mark's moral support.
Okay.
I was like, look, we really don't need him. I know he's not going to have to do anything, but if it makes you feel comfortable, then fine. And then I had the baby and I have like a photo of this. I look at him and he's like, did you notice that Dr. Crane's not here? Because I was like totally not present at all. And I was like, oh my God, like you didn't call him. Like he really was like totally trusted and was like fine with it. He was like, I didn't feel like we needed him. I didn't call him. And I was like, wow.
Look at
that says a lot, right?
That does say a lot.
I mean, he was like, at one point he was like, I'm going to have an ambulette in the driveway or like a helicopter parked outside. I was like, you are like nuts. I don't know what you're thinking.
I do believe that Mark would have had it too.
He probably would have if he really wanted to.
Mark is very opinionated, which is amazing. He is one of those people that like, he's so easy to talk to.
Yeah.
He's so easy to have a conversation, very charismatic.
Yes.
And
very
charming and very opinionated. And he speaks how he feels. Like he does not shy back or shy away, which I think is great, is a great personality trait to have. My point is, look, I ain't trying to get in y'all marriage. My point is that I know that if he was distrusting of it or if whatever, he would have shut it down.
Totally. I was shocked. I was like, wait, he's not sitting downstairs drinking wine on the couch? Okay, great.
This is good. Okay, so how is it now? Because you have a little bit of a gap. I mean, you have 11-ish.
So I have an 11-year-old. 8-year-old. My son's going to be 8 in a month, and then the baby will be 2.
Yeah.
So yes.
How is that parenting the gap? Parenting the different ages and stages.
So I was really nervous about that. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to start all over. What am I going to do? No one's going to have anything in common. You know, I really was like doubting it, but I knew it'd work out.
Yeah.
I couldn't be more wrong. Like, I can't, not that I'm like telling everyone like, you know, wait 6 years in between your baby. You know, family planning. But I have to say that it's been the best thing ever.
Wow.
So the big kids go to school. I'm home with the baby. I get to like have all this time with him. And he literally waits by the door every day for his big brother and sister to come home. They are obsessed with each other. Like the love that they share is, I can't even, it's like so beautiful. They're obsessed with him.
How is it co-parenting? I mean, because that's a really big thing too.
Yeah.
You have, you know what I mean? You have a relationship that you have with I love the fact that so I'm asking this question because I already know the answer.
Yeah.
Because you're such great at co-parenting with your ex-husband.
Right.
And Mark is also very good with your older two as well.
Yeah.
So how is that blended family co-parenting situation?
The baby, you know, I think I said this the other day. I think the little Phoenix was only like 1, which is crazy. He was only 1 at the time when Mark and I got together. So, you know, he's really raised them. They've known him, you know, their whole life. But I think that, listen, it's not easy. I think we're very lucky to have the situation that we have, but everybody's invested. It's not just my ex and I, it's Mark, it's, you know, the kids, everyone's happy to get along. And we really work hard at it. Yeah. You know, there are lots of, you know, instances and situations where we're biting our tongue or we're just like, you know, it's not worth it. You know, we kind of just look at the bigger picture. For the kids to have divorced parents that get along, where they can have them together at almost every event in their childhood is like,
that's amazing.
Kind of epic.
That's
right?
Epic. What would be your biggest advice for people and couples who have to co-parent? Yeah. Especially small children.
Right. I think I said this before, and I know it's not easy, but if you can put your ego aside and you can put whatever it is that happened. I know some situations are harder than others, but you know, if you can do that for your kids and you can really like just focus on their happiness, that's really it. Yeah. You know? Yeah. Yeah. If you can be like, yeah, but I don't really want to let him have that, or I don't really want, you know, if you can just let all that go and focus on your kids, then it's easy. Yeah. But it's hard to get to that point.
It's hard to get to that point.
I know it's a lot easier said than done, but really it is that. It really is.
There is hope on the other side, is what you're saying.
I mean, yes. Yeah. Yeah. You can have that. You definitely can. And I have people all the time ask me the same thing. Like, wow, I can't believe how well you guys co-parent. Like, what is the secret? And I think it's just realizing that we are going to be parents to these children for a very long time. And we don't really have, we have a choice. We have 2 choices. One, it can be really shitty, or it could be beautiful and great. And that's what we picked. Yeah. So
both have to be invested. Both parties, all parties.
All parties
have to be invested. I like that. That's a great tip. This, you know, this is something interesting because when we first started this conversation off camera, Tori was telling me that it's not Tori Praver. It's Tori. What is it, Tori?
Birnbaum.
It is Mark's last name. Yeah. Birnbaum. And this was interesting to me because I've always thought of you as Tori Praver. Yeah. And Issa always gets on me about not having his last name.
Oh, really?
Yes. And he always is like, he'll say stuff in the house, like as a joke. He'll be like, yeah, no, you're not allowed to come where the rock moms go because you're not a rock mom.
He's
you're
like
not
throwing little dicks.
Officially, yeah. So
do you think he really actually cares, or is he just?
I think he actually
like
really
funny?
does care.
Okay.
Yeah, but for me, I just never. I don't know. I think it's a multitude of things. You know, it's like a little bit of me having some independence from it, but also it's a hard. It's like it's a lot of paperwork. My mom gave me like 15 names. So I would have to go through it's a lot of laziness as but for you, what was it? What was it for your second marriage that you decided to take on Mark's name?
I don't know. I think, well, it was my second marriage. So let's be real. It was round 2. I don't know. I just thought like it was always kind of tricky having a hyphenated name, and like the kids, they were getting to the age of like asking me like, how come you have that name? And why didn't you have, I don't know. I just thought maybe it's easier. And like, I'm old school. Like, I just was like, you know what? Like, I'm going to take his name.
I love it.
Like, I'm really like, you know, as much as I stand for women's rights and all of that, don't get me wrong. I don't know. Like, I kind of love chivalry. Like, I kind of like
There's
that.
Nothing
like,
wrong.
I'm happy to be Mrs. Birnbaum.
That's right. And as you should be. Girl, be proud. You know, there's nothing wrong with the traditional, like the tradition of it all.
That's it for me. Yeah. Like, I really love that part.
Traditional.
And, you know, like even like the silly, stupid things, like where, you know, you're in a hotel and they call and they're like, Mrs. Birnbaum, what can we get you for breakfast this morning? And I'm like, haha, like, it's just like cute. I don't know.
Issa hates it when they call up and they're like, Mr. Mathis. He's like, what?
Yes, that used to happen. That used to happen. And I was like,
hates it. Yeah. What about the kids though? Because the kids still have their father's last name.
Yeah. They understand. Yeah. You know, they're old enough. They get it. They're like, you know, we've had this conversation. The baby, you know, Rush's dad's last name is Birnbaum, so you take your dad's last name.
Right.
But, you know, we have these conversations.
That's good. You know what I like? I like the fact that you are raising children that you're very communicative with them.
Yeah.
You talk very easily to them about things.
Yes.
Let me not say easily, but you do
We're
have
open.
conversation.
Yes.
You are very open with them.
We have
about
conversations
things.
about all of this.
Yeah.
Yes.
What is the biggest thing you are teaching your daughter, because she's your oldest, as she moves into preteen, teenage lifestyle?
Gosh, so many things, and it's all happening right now, actually.
All right now.
To be accepting, to not be judgmental and not to judge a book. Funny enough, you brought that up. You know, I think just to have compassion. Yeah. That's like my biggest thing. Like to really have compassion for everybody.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think that's a good one. And you know what? I think that's what you do.
Yeah.
I think that is what you do.
I'm trying.
You do it very well. I guess our last thing is this. I always like to know something a little bit about what feels like home for my guests. And so I have this thing, and it's called A Taste of Home.
Okay. What
dish, meal, tradition would it be for you that reminds you of a taste of home?
Gosh, a taste of home. What would that be? Honestly, like chocolate chip cookies.
Chocolate chip cookies.
I make them all the time for my kids. I just love baking.
Did you grow up eating chocolate chip cookies? Was that your thing? I mean, I guess everybody did. But
yeah, I did.
Is there a specific recipe that you absolutely love?
I play around all the time, but like honestly, the recipe on the back of the Nestle Toll House package, I'm just saying, it's just the best. It's like butter, sugar, and like, I don't know, chocolate chips. What could be bad?
I mean, what could be bad? Tori, thank you for coming on the Cool Mom Co podcast. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much.